Hey, and what is going on, everybody? It is Zero here, back with some more Diablo action. Today we're going to talk about a speed farming build, guys, for the Crusader that is pretty badass. I think one of the biggest complaints everybody has in this game is when it comes to materials. Your yellows, your blues, your whites, but in particular, Death's Breaths. Those things do not go very far. We use those things up so quickly, it is not even funny. And sometimes it can be difficult to regain those Death's Breaths after you've dumped them all into a failed attempt of getting a certain item. So I did some looking around. I came across this build that I thought looked pretty interesting. And it claimed to be able to farm 1,000 Death's Breaths or more an hour, which I quite liked the sound of, and I checked it out, and it indeed can farm over 1,000 Death's Breaths an hour. Probably, like, I wouldn't even be surprised if it could go into like the 1500s if you're running on Torment 13. Right now, my gear isn't the best. I'm running it on T10, but I'm not having any problems stocking my Death's Breaths, doing it on T10. So let's get, basically, here's the deal though, okay? It looks and plays exactly like LON Bomb, but it's not LON Bomb. But it plays exactly the same way. You look at the skills, it's pretty much identical for the most part. Akarat's Champion with Profit. Gotta have it for pretty much any build these days. Speed Charge, Spiked Barding, Condemn, Vacuum, Iron Skin, Reflective Skin, Bombardment, Barrels of Spikes, Laws of Justice, Decaying Strength, Iron Maiden, Heavenly Strength, because we are running a two-handed flail, which isn't a huge deal, you know, losing the damage because it's all about thorns. Lord Commander, cooldown of Steed Charge, big deal to have Steed Charge and Bombardment up as much as possible. And Long Arm of the Law, increase the duration of active effects of the law by 5 seconds. You could probably change that out if you wanted to any number of different things. Indestructible, maybe if you're having problems on T13. But for the most part, the second life on Akarat's Champion is going to save you. So I'm just running it the way that I found a lot of people talking about it online, which is with Long Arm of the Law, which increases that. So the thing, like, it's such a weird set of gear, really, too. But it works really, really well. So even like you look at your stats, it's going to look a lot like LON Bomb. You want a lot of cooldown, 45 plus, and as much thorns as possible. So stack toughness, stack thorns, stack cooldown, and which makes it very easy to gear for, with it not being LON Bomb. When you say LON Bomb to someone, they often say, oh great, like that's going to take me forever to gear for. Not this, because you don't need it to be ancient at all. It can be the worst of the worst gear and it's going to work, which is fantastic. So we're using 3 sets in this build, and I think that's why it's come to being called the Triumvirate build, is what I've seen it referred to as. So we're using the Norvald's Fervor set, which is the Flail of the Charge and the Shield of the Steed. The 2-piece set on that increase the duration of Steed Charge by 2 seconds. In addition, killing an enemy reduces the cooldown of Steed Charge by 1 second. Gain 100% increased damage while using Steed Charge and for 5 seconds after it ends. Which is a big deal. That gives you a huge, huge boost to your bursts, and this is all about burst damage and thorns damage. And like I said, you really don't have to worry about your rolls here. Area damage is obviously going to be nice. Think of it in the same way you would think of LON Bomb. You want to roll the same kind of stats on everything, but it doesn't have to be ancient to operate. This could obviously better. I mean, if you can get one that you can roll the damage off of, that would probably be even more ideal, to be honest with you. But, you know, easier said than done. So cooldown, area damage, Same thing with the shield, you know, throw bombardment on there. Mine's definitely not ideal. It's got crit chance on there. and no thorns damage. And basically try and roll thorns on all your pieces, guys. Okay, so we've got the shield and the flail, that 2-piece set, and then we're running 6-piece of armor of a Khan, and we're running boots, we're running pants, we're running shoulders. Try and get area damage and bombardment on your shoulders. That's a big deal, just like LON bomb. Cooldown if you can. We're running chest piece, and we're running the new amulet. This is kind of one of the pieces that really allows this build to function now that there's an amulet for the Akon set. Throw some physical on there, and definitely try and get one without crit or crit damage. You don't need it with this build. You'd rather have thorns damage on the secondary roll, or cooldown instead of crit or crit damage. Okay, and then the third set that we're running is the Sages set, and the 2-piece doesn't matter. We're just going for the increased Death's Breath drop. Again, you don't really need crit. Like, I just took the first helmet I got, and I haven't made another one. I should, because I'd like to bring this up to T13. So I could go for something better there. And gloves, try and go for area damage and cooldown with a thorns roll on your gloves. Then the other pieces we're running, guys, is the NEMS bracers. There's no reason not to run them. You're using this build for Death's Breath primarily. You can use it for bounties too. It'll function just fine for that as well, especially since these days we really only split T10s because there's no real point in doing T13s. So you can run this in bounties as well. But really, since we're going for Death's Breath, we're going to use NEMS bracers to get more elites out. Again, go for a physical roll, all tank, and then thorns if you can get it. We're running Unity to give us more tankiness, and it'll give us more damage against elites, so it'll just help us just melt elites super fast. So throw Unity on your follower, Templar, of course. Cooldown, thorns. You're going to throw a Bane of the Trapped in there. Again, this is very similar to LON bomb. You're going to go with a Stone of Jordan. Yes! A build that uses a Stone of Jordan. Thank God. Ideally, you want to get one with physical damage. I haven't had that kind of luck yet. And you're going to get more elite damage there. And again, you want to try and get thorns, but that's a little easier said than done. Throw a Bane of the Powerful in there. You're going to use Bane of the Powerful because we really aren't bothering with anything but elites. I mean, if you see a big, huge group of trash, you can run through it a bit and melt it with your thorns, and that's going to help your Steed Charge instant cooldown. But really, just go for elites. Just go from elite to elite to elite to elite. You're just looking for Death's Breaths and legendaries, so there's no reason to muck around with trash, which means you're always going to have your Bane of the Powerful up. And lastly, Biardi's Chip. Thorns damage. This is a Thorns build. Obviously, you're going to run that. You can run with Strength Gems in your gear, or you can run with Diamonds for all res. It's completely up to you. Either's going to work fine. I'm not having any problems with the Strength. I might switch it out for all res when I go to T13 Death's Breath farming. We'll see. Not exactly sure. And lastly, Belt of the Trove, just like the LON build. That's going to give you more bombardments coming down for free every 6 seconds. Obviously, try and get one with thorns on the secondary. Like I said, I don't have that much thorns with this build, unfortunately. Like I said, my gear is not optimized at all. I only have 148,000. You'd really like to break 200,000 and get around 240, 250. If you can get the mythical, the so sought after 300, I mean, you're gonna destroy T13s no problem and be getting Death's Breath like no tomorrow. So there's that. And lastly, in the cube, guys, there is 2 ways you can go with your cube options. Mandatory, you have to have the Ring of Royal Grandeur. That is to allow for all the sets to actually function, right? Because Sage's is a 3-piece, we're only wearing 2. And Akon's is a 6-piece, and we're only wearing 5, so you need the Ring of Royal Grandeur. In this slot, I'm running with Leoric's Crown for more cooldown. You can also run, and a lot of people run it this way, they run the Gloves of Worship for shrine effects lasting 10 minutes. I couldn't care less about that, honestly. I'd rather have more cooldown. So the Leoric's Crown in the cube really allows you to not have as much cooldown on your gear, which in my mind, I figured, you know what, if I run Leoric's Crown here, it gives me a little more wiggle room in the gear and I can potentially roll thorns on other pieces rather than having to roll cooldown. So that's the reason I'm using the Orc's Crown. But if you have enough cooldown on your gear, there's no reason you can't run Gloves of Worship or even Heart of the Iron for more thorns damage. I would really like Heart of the Iron in here actually over the Gloves of Worship, but I need that Leoric's Crown. And lastly, we're running the Ingeum for even more cooldown. Your skill cooldowns are reduced by 10 seconds for 15 seconds after killing an elite pack. So considering you're going from elite to elite to elite to elite, and on the big open maps, this is constantly up 100% of the time. So that helps your cooldown a lot as well. So I would, again though, I think the ideal selection in here would be Ingeum, Heart of the Iron if you have enough cooldown reduction. And of course, Ring of Royal Grandeur is an absolute must. And that's the build, guys. It's super simple to put together. This is stuff, the hardest piece to get for this is going to be the Stone of Jordan and the Ingeum for the cube. Everything else is super easy to get. Like, this is stuff as a Crusader. Maybe the Unity's a little bit of a pain to get too sometimes. But this primarily, the Sage's set you craft, right? You have to craft that. But the Icon pieces drop all the time. And even if you don't get the right pieces, you can convert set items, right? The Norvald's Fervor set drops constantly, for me anyway. It's one of the things I get the absolute most. And basically, you know, Belts of the Trove, I mean, they're not that hard to get. Just upgrade rares. Basically, any of this can be obtained in you know, like one good 4-hour session of farming gear. You can have this whole set put together. If you're having problems getting an Ingeum, like I was, all I did was I made a level 1 wizard. I crafted a bunch of level 70 swords with my Crusader, threw them in the stash, jumped over to the wizard, brought him in, and I just upgraded those rares into legendaries with the wizard, and on my 5th roll, Ingeum popped, and that was after quite a bit of time of looking as a Crusader. I think, I'm not going to say it's 100% the case, that the wizard has a better chance of getting an Ingeum. Because I know that when I was playing wizard, I would constantly get them. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to try it, and all it took was 5 rolls and I had an Ingeum. So if you're having problems getting an Ingeum, try that out. Anyway, guys, that's the build. It's going to really help with getting your Death's Breaths, guys. I had 200 some Death's Breaths, 300 maybe Death's Breaths this morning before getting on. I ran 4 rifts, and now I have 974. Mind you, I did find a Goblin Horde, so that helped a bit. But had I actually done a full hour run, I would have well over 1,000 right now. So, and again, this is going to help you getting all your other mats too. Because pick up the yellows and pick up the blues that the elites drop too. There's no reason not to. You click, 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 and then get the hell out of there, right? No big deal. So that's the build. That's the, I guess it's called the Triumvirate build. I really like it. It's really helping me keep my crafting mats up. So there you go, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.